Okay, this is part 2 in the AT&T Fiasco, and this is where I'm going to start ranting on AT&T. But anyways, here's the decisions I finally made. First of all, I can't change port numbers. And the port number that we're actually focusing on is port 443, or HTTPS. Your Exchange server, if you decide to deploy it requires this. A lot of your VPN services, I found out, do this. So if you're using Cisco or Juniper, they're going to be using to access your VPN server from the outside in port 443. And of course, the web server. Nowadays, you're probably going to want to just set up HTTPS and forgo port 80 altogether. So those are the three that I'm focusing on. And so you're going to have to change the IP address. And so really changing the IP address is basically you're going to have to route this to a completely different subnet, and this is where things go horribly wrong. So when you look at this, you're going to see that your easiest solution, your easiest way of getting around this is going to be getting private IP space or public IP space. AT&T does offer this to the normal residential consumer like you and me. However, when you call them up and you try to buy one of these, make sure you have a lot of patience and probably a lot of alcohol to alleviate the pain, because this is not an easy process. AT&T does offer static IP addresses. I believe they start out at /30s, and they 29 /28, and I think you can even get a /27. The prices are different, or go up accordingly. The thing that you have to realize with AT&T and them doing this is that they will not route. You cannot subnet this block of IP spaces you get. So what you would think you would normally do if you know networking is that you would get a block of IP space and you'd subnet that out into different services that you would want to run. And let's say you would want to take part of that and you want to run a point-to-point link to connect the AT&T service to your network, and then use other subnets to do different things. AT&T will not subnet this. The way this works is that when you buy a block of IP address, 2 of them are immediately taken up, besides your subnet and broadcast. So if you get a /29, for example, which is 8 IP addresses, 2 of them are taken up by network and broadcast, so there's 6. Then they reserve one, the last one out of that block, the last usable, which would be your network or your IP address that goes into the gateway itself. This is not negotiable. That is a /whatever you get. And so if you get a /29, that's what you get. You cannot subnet this out. And this turns into a big issue, because you can't start putting up zones or different networks in your infrastructure to do what you want to. So I'll get into this how you do this, because because you can't subnet this, you can't route any of this stuff. Everything that's on this block has to be on layer 2. Everything that you put, all these IP addresses are going to have to be on the same network, have the same subnet mask. So your gateway is going to be this modem for every single address you get. The other thing is that plan this out accordingly and get as much IP space as possible. I started out with a /29. I got 5 usable IP addresses, and it worked fine, because I wasn't using that many devices, so I actually was only using 2 of them, so I had a few left, and it wasn't a big deal. But if you run out, what's going to happen is that cannot add addresses to your existing block. You're going to have to change out to a completely different block. This means is that your gateways all changed. You have to re-IP your network. You have to redo your DNS. You have to redo your entire IP network. And depending on how big it is, this can get very, very complicated, and it's pain and a lot of downtime. When dealing with AT&T on this, they don't really do this very well. Let's say you call them up, you want private IP space or public IP space, and you want a block of addresses. Do not tell them the subnet, you just tell them how many you need, and they will sell it to you accordingly. The first time I did this, I called them up, I wanted public space, they said fine, /29, great. The first thing they said, oh, we need a truck roll, we need a technician out on site. Okay, why? I just need to tell me what the subnet is and when you're going to turn it on. Oh no, so this is where I get to rant. They sent this guy out, and these guys know one thing. They know how to stick the modem in, connect it to the network, and get you running on Wi-Fi. If they start dealing with anything more than that, it's like, don't even try. They just don't know. And what personally happened to me is they called this guy out. First thing, he comes into my house and I said, okay. And he says, oh, we're here to change out your modem. I said, why do you need to change out my modem? Because it's working fine. I got the latest and greatest. I don't want, oh, you don't need a new modem? I said, I just need my public space. What is my subnet? Had no clue of anything about what I was talking about. He called up his technician, his private little number for his escalation support. He got another flunky on there, and he basically gave him a subnet mask, an IP and a subnet mask wasn't correct. So he put it in, he configured it up, and it didn't work. And so basically, it's like, what do we do now? I'm down. Oh, you're going to have to call in. Why do I have to call in? You fix my system. You screwed it up. You fix it. And he just walked out the door. And so now it's after hours on a weekend, and I'm calling AT&T. I got the runaround going, oh, the office is closed, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, tier 3 support. So they finally gave me a network, the right subnet network, and I ended up configuring up this modem myself, and I finally got it to work, but I was down for hours. And that just to get it to work, the modem was now doing DNS or DHCP. It was doing that. It was doing all these things, but at least I was paying to the internet. So I had to spend a lot of time on the phone with AT&T's tier 3 support to get all that sorted out. Not very happy, but it did work. So but that's the solution I did, is to go with public IP space. That would solve some of the problem. I could now, because I had public IP space, now what I do is I go assign public addresses to these web server and the Edge email server and some VPN services, and it would work for me. At least I'm on a path to getting this to work. I didn't want to set this up because I had to now re-IP a bunch of stuff. So, but that's it. And then what in the next videos I'll tell you basically how I set up a network to get around this AT&T non-subnettable garbage that they set up, and also an explanation of why they do this. Because if you're a network professional like I am, this is nuts. This is crazy. You do not work like this. This is painting yourself into a corner, and nobody in their right mind who's a network professional would even think of doing it this way. But I will give it to AT&T people are brilliant. So in the next videos, I'll explain a little bit about that. So until next time.